50 years ago, India, the world's largest democracy, plunged into an unprecedented state of emergency, silencing dissent and testing the very foundations of its democratic institutions. In the pre-dawn hours of June 26, 1975, a chilling announcement echoed across the nation. President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, on the advice of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, declared a state of internal emergency under Article 352 of the Constitution. India, the largest democracy, had effectively suspended its democratic functions.
भाइयों और बहनों, राष्ट्रपति जी ने आपातकाल की घोषणा की है।
This announcement marked the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in India's democratic history, a time of unprecedented repression. Indira Gandhi had appealed to the Supreme Court against the Allahabad High Court's order, but Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer of the Supreme Court refused to grant a full stay on the High Court's ruling on June 24, 1975. The very next day, the emergency was imposed. What followed was an era of authoritarianism, and democracy in India was pushed to the brink. Fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution, equality before law, right to life and personal liberty were suspended immediately after the declaration. By January 1976, Article 19 was also suspended, effectively snatching away the rights to free speech, press, association, and peaceful assembly. As the machinery of state suppression kicked in, the judiciary wasn't spared either. Lawyers who dared to speak out in defense of civil liberties were arrested. In March 1976, without any prior notice, 200 chambers of practicing lawyers at Delhi's 30 Hazari Court were demolished and 43 lawyers were sent to jail. Soon attention turned to High Court judges who had passed verdicts against the government's excesses. Many were transferred or faced punitive action for their rulings. But the most prominent casualty of judicial independence during the emergency was Justice H.R. Khanna. He was the senior-most judge in the Supreme Court and the natural successor to become Chief Justice of India. But in the ADM Jabalpur case, where the core issue was the suspension of fundamental rights during the emergency, Justice Khanna stood alone in dissent.
जो आतंक का माहौल था उसमें जजों को इतना ज़बरदस्त डराया गया। रे का केस पहले से ही चल रहा था, यानी 7-8 जजों को सुपरसीड करके जो रे को चीफ जस्टिस बनाया था, तो वैसे भी जुडिशरी डरी हुई थी। तो जबलपुर का एक केस है जिसमें जीने का अधिकार भी जुडिशरी के माध्यम से इंदिरा गांधी सरकार ने नागरिकों से छीन लिया था।
His principled stand cost him dearly. The Indira Gandhi government superseded him and appointed a junior judge, Justice Mirza Hamid Ullah Beg, as the Chief Justice instead. In protest, Justice Khanna resigned the very same day.
Justice Khanna यह स्वीकार करने के लिए तैयार नहीं थे कि किसी भी हालत में सरकार द्वारा किसी नागरिक से उसके जीने का हक और अदालत में न्याय मांगने का अधिकार यह छीन लिया गया। अपने डिसेंटिंग जजमेंट के लिए जस्टिस खन्ना को क्या कीमत चुकानी पड़ी है, यह बात भारतीय लोकतंत्र के सबसे काले अध्याय के पन्नों में अंकित है।
Indira Gandhi's authoritarian grip extended to the Constitution itself, which she amended multiple times during the emergency to consolidate her power. The 38th Amendment took away the judiciary's power to review the emergency. The 39th Amendment barred courts from questioning the election of the Prime Minister altogether. But the most alarming was the 42nd Amendment, often called the mini constitution, which altered 40 different provisions of the constitution under Article 368. In independent India's 75-year constitutional history, this remains the only amendment that even changed the preamble of the constitution. The very soul of the constitution was suffocated during the emergency. The crackdown was swift and brutal. Within hours, thousands of political opponents, activists and dissidents were rounded up and arrested under the draconian Maintenance of Internal Security Act, or MISA. Prominent figures, including Jayaprakash Narayan, were among the first to be jailed with no right to trial or bail. By July 4th, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or the RSS, had been banned. During this time, the people of Gujarat rose up against the dictatorship and came out in support of the RSS. Public meetings and rallies began gaining momentum. Playing a key role in organizing these gatherings was a young RSS worker, none other than India's current Prime Minister, Narendra Modi.
हम कुछ लोग बैठे हुए थे एक मीटिंग में. नरेंद्र भाई थे, देशमुख जी थे, शंकर सिंह वाघेला थे और मैं था. पांचों को इस ऐसी जिम्मेवारी सौंपी गई थी कि भाई आप लोगों को बाहर रहना है और हमें ये साहित्य का, संगठन का, संघर्ष का, सत्याग्रह का ये सब काम करना है. दुर्भाग्य से मैं सबसे पहले पकड़ा गया. कुछ महीने के बाद शंकर सिंह गए. बाकी रहे देशमुख जी और नरेंद्र भाई. नरेंद्र भाई कभी भी उनकी किसी पुलिस में आए.
The way young Narendra Modi carried out his responsibilities with skill and precision did not go unnoticed. Recognizing his capabilities, he was appointed General Secretary of the Lok Sangharsh Samiti, a national resistance front formed under the leadership of Jayaprakash Narayan.
संघ के करीब सब जो प्रचारक थे उनका तो उनके ऊपर तो वारंट था, इसलिए सब लोग साधारणतः भूगर्भ में थे. नरेंद्र भाई भी भूगर्भ में थे. तो उस समय गुजरात का संघ का संगठन को कार्यशील रखने के लिए हर जगह प्रयत्न हुए थे. ऐसे गुजरात में भी हुआ.
Young Narendra Modi's role was to awaken public consciousness against the authoritarian imposition of the emergency. But that wasn't all. He also took on the crucial task of editing, printing and distributing the underground magazine Bhoogarb, a powerful medium of resistance.
आपातकाल विरोधी सामग्री का वितरण करना है राजस्थान भर में और वो आएगी गुजरात से. जब मैं अहमदाबाद सामग्री लेने गया, जब जो हमारे सह प्रांत प्रचारक थे उन्होंने कहा मोदी जी ये अपने प्रचारक हैं, इनके पास जाओ, ये आपको सामग्री देंगे. तो भूमिगत होकर पूरे देश की सामग्री का मुद्रण माननीय मोदी जी कराते थे अहमदाबाद में और सारी मुद्रित सामग्री में राजस्थान के विभिन्न कोनों में बांटता था.
Soon, Narendra Modi was being actively pursued by the police. Raids were conducted across the country to apprehend him, but he successfully avoided arrests by disguising himself, sometimes as a sadhu or a saint, at other times as a Sikh. He even went on to assume a new identity, Batukbai, to stay out of reach. During the emergency, thousands of RSS workers were jailed, and their families faced severe financial hardship. Many households were in a state of utter distress. Then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's government spared no one, whether commoners or the elite. Among those targeted were two royal figures from prominent dynasties. Maharani Vijayaraje Scindia of the Gwalior royal family and Maharani Gayatri Devi of the Jaipur royal family. They were revered as Rajmata or Queen Mother even after India's independence. But this respect and widespread popularity were perhaps deeply resented by Indira Gandhi. That is why during the emergency her government unleashed its wrath upon both of them. Maharani Gayatri Devi commanded immense respect and had a following in the millions. But the emergency became a dark and painful chapter in her life. At the time the emergency was declared, she was a sitting member of parliament from Jaipur. She was unwell and undergoing treatment in Mumbai. Yet that did not stop the Indira Gandhi government from falsely accusing her of smuggling and arresting her. The persecution didn't end there. Her son, Colonel Bhavani Singh, was also handcuffed and taken into custody. This was the same Colonel Bhavani Singh who had led a unit of the Indian Army during the 1971 war, capturing 3 Pakistani cities and hoisting the Indian tricolour over them. For this act of bravery, he was awarded the Mahavir Chakra. Yet, he was arrested simply because he was found in possession of $10, which under Indira Gandhi's emergency was deemed illegal foreign currency. Both Maharani Gayatri Devi and Colonel Bhavani Singh were imprisoned in Tihar jail, confined to dark, foul-smelling cells. The same fate befell to Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia of the Gwalior royal family, a prominent leader of the Bharatiya Jan Sangh. At the time, she enjoyed soaring popularity and was a sitting member of parliament. This became intolerable for Indira Gandhi's government. Within just 15 days of the emergency, Rajmata was arrested from a palace in Gwalior on fabricated charges of possessing illegal gold. Days later, she was sent to Delhi's Tihar jail, where she was confined to the same cell as Maharani Gayatri Devi. The 2 queens, once accustomed to luxurious living, were now treated like ordinary criminals, forced to endure deplorable conditions. Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia recounted this harrowing experience in her autobiography, Rajpath Se Lokpath Par, in the following words.
Gayatri Devi and I had to use the same toilet, which had no tap, just a pit in the ground. A sweeper would occasionally pour in a couple of buckets of water. Filth was piled up all around Tihar jail, making the air perpetually foul. While eating, we had to constantly wave away flies from our plates. As evening fell, the flies would sleep and the mosquitoes would awaken. The constant hum of insects filled our ears. Life became unbearable. And yet, we were at peace. But what about Indira Gandhi, who once breathed freely in open air? Was she at peace? Even in broad daylight, she was seeing stars.
While both royal women were locked behind bars, their palaces in Jaipur and Gwalior were simultaneously raided by government officials, believing hidden treasures were concealed within. Officials ordered their palaces to be dug up. Vijaya Raje Scindia alleged that Indira Gandhi wanted to seize her entire estate. She also claimed that several precious gold items were stolen from her palace during the raids, items that were never recovered. What Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia and Maharani Gayatri Devi endured during the emergency stands as one of the starkest examples of political and personal vendetta in Indian history. Next, the government turned its attention to the media. Electricity to newspaper presses was cut, effectively silencing dissenting voices. Strict censorship was imposed, with journalists and editors forced to submit their content for approval. The 4th pillar of democracy was brought to its knees. To ensure that no voice could be raised against the emergency and no reports about the arrest of opposition leaders were published, power was cut to Delhi's Press Lane at around 1:30 a.m. Darkness fell over the newspaper offices. Not far from there, at Connaught Place, stood the Hindustan Times office. There, the electricity was cut slightly later, and as a result, several copies of the newspaper had already been printed. But before they could reach the public, the police raided the premises and seized the newspapers. But there was one paper that not only got printed, but was also distributed. It was The Motherland, the official mouthpiece of the Bharatiya Jan Sangh. Sadly, this turned out to be the final issue. The same night, police sealed its office. For 2 full days, the electricity supply to newspaper offices remained suspended. During this time, the government prepared an extensive framework to control the press. Then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi herself tried to justify press censorship.
गलत खबरें जिससे लोग भड़कें या जिससे गलतफहमी फैले, ऐसी खबरें दे रहे थे। हमारा पूरा मकसद इस समय ये है कि स्थिति शांति और स्थिरता की रहे। सेंसरशिप का मतलब यही है।
Strict directives were issued to newspapers. Any violation would not be tolerated. The message was clear. Only content which was approved by the government could be written or spoken. On June 28, 1975, the Indian Express, in protest against restrictions on press freedom, left its editorial column completely blank. The environment had become so repressive that speaking out against the government was considered a crime. During the emergency under Indira Gandhi's son, Sanjay Gandhi's influence, 327 journalists were jailed. Over 3,800 newspapers were seized. Government advertisements were withdrawn from 290 publications. 7 international journalists were expelled from India. The Press Council of India was dissolved. Leading news agencies PTI, UNI, Hindustan Samachar and Samachar Bharati were merged into a single agency to enable total government control over the flow of news. Even reporting on parliamentary and judicial proceedings was subject to censorship. A government censorship committee began determining the content that media outlets could publish. When then Information and Broadcasting Minister Indur Kumar Gujral refused to implement these orders, he was removed from the cabinet.
इंद्र कुमार गुजराल एक दिन प्रधानमंत्री निवास पर आए। संजय गांधी ने उनको रोका और कहा कि जो बुलेटिन जारी होनी है वो मुझे दिखा करके करिए, और कुछ उदंडता से उन्होंने उनसे बात की। इंद्र कुमार गुजराल ने कहा कि संजय, न तुम कांग्रेस के नेता हो, न सरकार में कोई पद है तुम्हारे पास, तुम मात्र इंदिरा गांधी के बेटे, तो तुमको ये अधिकार नहीं है कि इंद्र कुमार गुजराल को आदेश दे। अगले दिन इंद्र कुमार गुजराल से सूचना प्रसारण मंत्रालय छीन लिया।
Censorship brought a halt to the publication of reports on the arrest of key opposition leaders, including Jayaprakash Narayan. Cartoons and satire that mocked the government were also not spared from censorship. Raids were conducted on newspaper offices under the pretext of unpaid taxes, electricity bills, or municipal dues. Yet even under this intense pressure, some journalists refused to bow down. Journalists like Kuldeep Nair, Surya Dutt Tiwari, and Nihal Singh Mehta endured imprisonment for standing up for press freedom. Only a few media houses such as the Indian Express, the Statesman, and Mainstream dared to challenge government policies. This clampdown on free speech and media lasted until February 23, 1977, when the general elections were finally announced. Members of the film fraternity weren't spared either. One such person was Snehalata Reddy. She was a film star, an activist, and a voice of resistance. But during the emergency, Reddy's courage became her crime. Arrested, silenced, and broken behind bars, her story is one of dignity crushed by dictatorship. When emergency was imposed, Snehalata Reddy took to the streets in protest against the authoritarian regime. She participated in peaceful demonstrations. What made her an even bigger target for the government was her close association with socialist leader George Fernandez. At the time, George Fernandez had gone underground, and authorities suspected that Snehalata knew his whereabouts. What followed was a tragedy that remains a chilling reminder of those dark times. On May 2, 1976, Snehalata Reddy was arrested under the Draconian Maintenance of Internal Security Act, MISA, a law used extensively during the emergency to silence political dissent. She was confined to a small cell in Bengaluru jail, barely fit for human habitation. Veteran journalist Kuldeep Nair recounted her condition in his book, Emergency Retold. In the prison cell, there was only a hole in the corner for a toilet and a barred iron door at the other end. This renowned Kannada actress was forced to sleep on the floor. For 8 long months, Snehalata Reddy endured constant torture. While in prison, Snehalata kept a diary which was later published in 1977 by the Karnataka Human Rights Committee under the title A Prison Diary. In it, she described the inhumane treatment she endured.
As soon as a woman enters, she is stripped naked in front of everyone. When someone is sentenced, punishment follows. But does a human body deserve to be humiliated like this? Who is responsible for these dehumanizing methods?
During the emergency, many opposition leaders were jailed. Among them were Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Lal Krishna Advani, who were also imprisoned in Bengaluru jail. Snehalata Reddy's dark, isolated cell was right next to theirs. Both Vajpayee and Advani later recalled hearing the haunting cries of a woman from a nearby cell. It was only later they discovered that the screams came from the actress Snehalata Reddy. Despite her deteriorating health, Snehalata suffered from asthma. She was denied medical treatment and subjected to even harsher conditions. After 8 months in custody, the government finally released her on parole on January 15, 1977. But just 5 days later, Snehalata Reddy died of a heart attack. The charge against her, she was accused of plotting to detonate dynamite at Parliament and other key buildings in Delhi, an allegation that was never proven in court. Falsely accused, tortured and ultimately pushed to her death, Snehalata Reddy became one of many silenced voices of the emergency. The 1975 emergency left an indelible mark on India. It exposed the fragility of democratic institutions, even in a nation deeply committed to them. It underscored the importance of an independent judiciary, a free press, and a vigilant citizenry. The lessons of the emergency resonate even today. It serves as a stark reminder that democracy is not a given, but a continuous struggle, requiring constant vigilance and protection from those who seek to undermine its core principles. India emerged from its dark night stronger, more resolute, and with a deeper understanding of the preciousness of its democratic ideals. The year 1975 will forever be etched in India's history as a period when the very soul of the nation was tested, but it also stands as a testament to the enduring power of its people to reclaim their voice and uphold the principles of freedom and justice.